Hello and welcome to Truth Matters Unplugged. The assassination of Charlie Kirk has become a very actively viewed and investigated whodunit, probably in the last 50 years, since the JFK assassination. And there are now so many hypotheses, suspicions, clues, circumstantial evidence, coincidences, and conspiracy theories out there. It's hard to keep track of everything. A lot of people involved, a lot of people making updates, and a lot of people digging through every detail, every piece of footage, every photo, leaving no stone unturned. There are a few main streams of thought. The one is that, of course, that the main working narrative that Tyler Robinson, the alleged killer and the prime suspect, was working by himself. He's a trans leftist activist, Antifa type person who is short a few marbles. And then there are conspiracies saying that it's not him, that there were other shooters, and that he was innocently caught. And then yet again, there are others who say that he was not working alone, that he was working in a cell of such people, trans activist cell with Antifa-type people or trans people who were plotting this and who had foreknowledge of this. And then there are other conspiracies that says that he was a patsy. He was maybe coerced into doing it in a psyop by people who are very powerful and by intelligence types. And the motives that's been sort of implied or directly said pointed at Israel or Antifa or the left. But the one motive and the one reason that I think has not been given a lot of attention is the one that I would put the most money on. If you had asked me to place a bet on if Tyler Robinson was not just a lone, crazy gunman, lone wolf, who was behind it, then I have a very clear-cut answer. And to introduce that, let me play for you a clip of Charlie talking to some students, and then we'll discuss that. So here we go.
What's your opinion on the Phase 1 release of the Epstein files? Do you think it was more of a PR stunt with Pam Bondi because she just got into office? And do you think it was right for her to call out on Kash Patel? What do you think is actually going on? And do you think that she genuinely has the files or people are destroying them? And what's going on there?
Well, I think they got to make this right. I mean,
Right.
we as the American people deserve to have every Epstein file released with no redactions whatsoever, period.
Right.
And so yesterday, I don't want to comment because a lot of these people are my friends, but they got to make it right. And we, the American people, ran on transparency. We deserve to see the entire client list.
Yeah.
Every document the government has regarding the Epstein files, we, the American people, should have on an easy-to-access website immediately in a very, very quick fashion. I'm pushing for that both privately and publicly, just so you know.
Yeah.
Secondly, there probably are a lot of destroyed documents. I think that's probably the issue.
Charlie basically went beast mode on the release of the Epstein files. He called for it publicly, privately. He made videos about it. He was very vocal about releasing the Epstein files. Now remember, he was a very powerful person because he had the ears of the youth. Young people were listening to him and paying attention. And he had a massive following. The youth, young people, is a very, very valuable commodity in the political sphere. On top of that, Charlie rubbed shoulders with very powerful people, not just in the celebrity circles and in circles of people with influence, influencers, YouTubers, political commentators and so forth, like Megyn Kelly and Benny Johnson and Tucker Carlson and all these people but he also rubbed shoulders with very important political figures. He had Donald Trump on his speed dial. He had access to Congress people and senators directly who knew him. And so he was a very well-known figure in extremely powerful circles. And he was a very powerful person by himself as well. So he was pushing very, very hard leading up to the assassination for the Epstein files. He had Megyn Kelly on the stage, and they spoke about that, calling for the release of the Epstein files, discussing it with one another on a stage. He made videos. Let me show you some. There's a video the 3rd of September, a week before the assassination. He made a lengthy video about the Epstein files. He had videos prior to that, several videos, on his YouTube channel and on the radio, on his show, in which he called for the release of the Epstein files. So he was serious. When he said he made it, he called for it both publicly and privately. He had been doing so. It was also very frustrating to Charlie that the files were not being released, and that Pam Bondi was not 100% accurate in how she described it the first time, saying we have all these hours and hours of videos to watch, and then she reframed it a little as if it was as if Epstein simply had some porn on his computer. But so this was highlighted by Charlie as well. In addition to that, and if you just research a little bit, since July of this year, the release of the files were blocked in Congress by both the Senate and the House many times, several times. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, major moments that release of the Epstein files were blocked, particularly by Republicans. And for various reasons. Either it was called a political stunt by Chuck Schumer, who added it to a defense bill as an amendment, and then procedurally the Republicans defeated that and refused to let it be released. Other times they were the Epstein Files Transparency Act, a bill released by Republican Ro Khanna and I think Thomas Massie of Kentucky. And that was referred to the House Judiciary Committee, and it didn't move forward from that. So they used every opportunity they could and every procedural method to block release of the Epstein files, which indicates something. Not only the House and the Senate in Congress, but also judges. Judges have been throwing hurdles at not just releasing the Epstein files, but also at further investigations, at releasing testimonies, and so forth. So there is a huge effort to block release of the Epstein files. Now, we have been receiving documents, and Epstein documents have been released in drip mode, but nothing that the public is looking for. What's the public looking for? When we say Epstein files, what do the public mean? Well, they don't really mean the laundry list of, or the list, the grocery list, or the list of, the titles in the bookshelves. They don't mean the sex tapes. They don't want to see the sex tapes. That's definitely not what they want. What they mean is incriminating evidence against a ring of child molesting clients and people who committed crimes against children associated with Jeffrey Epstein, regardless of how powerful they are, because the American public is tired of seeing a two-tier justice system. They want to see people held accountable regardless of how powerful and wealthy they are. That's the Epstein files. It's nothing to do with anything else. People want accountability. They want these people held accountable regardless of who they are, what their names are, how powerful they are, or how wealthy they are. And that's what they want. Nothing else. That's the key. They don't want a two-tier justice system. These people must go to jail. They must be indicted. So that is, in my opinion, also an indication that these are very powerful people. When Congress blocks it, when judges block it, they don't want it released. Oh, because how? Well, these are powerful people, people with deep pockets, who support campaigns, who contribute to election campaigns, who contribute to special interests. And perhaps there's also some extortion involved. I don't know. But the fact remains is we will never see the Epstein files. We will never get the client list. The client list, the incriminating client list of people who committed sex crimes and child trafficking crimes and crimes against children as part of this ring that Epstein was associated with. We're never going to see those files. Kash Patel, I believe Kash Patel when he says that if he had anything, if he had evidence, he would release it yesterday. I believe him. I believe that the evidence was destroyed because Kash Patel and this administration inherited this case from the previous administration. And so I think the evidence has been destroyed or hidden, probably completely destroyed and wiped away. And so there will be no arrests. There will be no official client list and indictments against anybody, because it's been wiped. It's gone. It's finished. We can forget it. And I think Donald Trump knows that. And instead of focusing on this and wasting time on this, he wants to move forward. And I agree. Because we're not going to get it. It's been deleted. It's gone. And these people are too powerful. However, and as much as I would like to see these people come to justice, I would love to see that. But they will come to justice in the end. There is a higher power than the White House, and they are going to stand trial for what they did, for sure. So rest assured that they will stand trial and they will get what they deserve in the end. I believe that it is very possible, and I have no evidence for this, that Charlie Kirk, garnering so much attention for the release of the Epstein files and putting so much pressure on people in very extremely high circles, and then blasting his demands to the youth. And perhaps he also get access to information from these higher circles that you and I will never see, because he rubbed shoulders with people in very high circles. He had more information than we do. And perhaps everything he did, his voice on this matter, stung very, very deeply some very, very important people and wealthy people who are extremely afraid of their very bloated egos and their empires becoming tainted if something actually gets out. And I don't think we should underestimate the power of what threats like that, releasing the Epstein files, can do. It wouldn't surprise me if the Crooks Butler assassination attempt against Trump had to do with Epstein. If more things that we've seen had to do with Epstein, perhaps the Steele dossier and a lot of things had to do with Epstein. Maybe. I don't know how far, but these are powerful people. Whether this is a false flag, I don't know. I'm just guessing. Like I said, I'm very honest. This is not anything. I would just put my money on the table. If I had to bet on what's the actual motive behind the murder, why was Charlie silenced? If it wasn't a lone wolf, this is what I would put my money on. I wouldn't put my money on Israel for, he's realigning his allegiance or rethinking his allegiance to Israel. He was a great supporter of Israel. Israel would, rather than shooting him, they would have tried to win him back over, and which is what they tried to do. But the clues that people have found that point in the direction of Israel may not be as far-fetched as we think, because remember, Epstein was also linked to Israel through Mossad, and allegedly. Was Epstein a Mossad agent? Did he work for Israel? He was a Jew, so he must have been well connected in Israel as well. And so I don't think we can discard the possibility that Israel is involved, but it would have to do, I think it would have more to do with Epstein than with Charlie's allegiance to Israel. I don't think that's the case. I pause when I listen to the narrative about Tyler Robinson having taken this action and executed this assassination, this whole plot out by himself. When you look at how complex that campus is, he had to drive there. He had to practice where he was going to get on the roof, how he was going to get there. He had to scope out the place, figure out where to shoot from, where's the best spot. Then he had to have an escape plan, which direction to run, where to get up, where to get down, where to put his car, and all these things. So this thing had to have been planned ahead of time. And did he do it by himself? The shot was fired, I believe, at 12:23 p.m. for an event that started at noon. And Charlie started speaking after that. He was not long there. It was shortly after he arrived. He was shot, and then the killer ran. So it's not like he took his time to find the best spot after Charlie arrived. He was ready. He went, shot, ran out, and he was gone. And that is very suspicious. When did he plan this? How did he plan it? You don't plan this over the internet. You have to go there. You have to see it in person if you want to do something like this. You have to make sure. You also have to make sure that there are no. You have to know where the cameras are. You have to know if there are any posted, police presence in that area. A lot of things that you need to know before you could pull something like this off by appearing on a campus with a scoped rifle. So, same thing with crooks. You take a scoped rifle onto a roof within a stone's throw of where a former president at the time is speaking. And how do you do that? Unless you have help. Not only that, he flew a drone beforehand over the area. Drone flight is now controlled by the FAA. If you fly a drone, the police are going to approach you to see if you are licensed and what your story is. If you fly a drone, especially near an event like that, with a crowd. How did he walk around with a rangefinder? Why wasn't he detained? Why wasn't there a police report already filed about him? How did he just do all this with impunity and fired a shot hitting President Trump in the ear? I don't believe that Crooks could have done that by himself. I don't believe it. I think there was something behind it. And so there are powerful forces that are behind these things. That's what I think. I think that's the most likely explanation. If you ask me where to put my money, I'm not gonna put my money on a lone gunman for either of these cases. I don't know. Time will tell. But just like the JFK assassination, we will probably have to wait for 100 years before these files are declassified. So we will not know what the truth is. Charlie said a lot of things. He said things in favor of Christianity and against other faiths, other religions, like Islam. Islam is not tolerant of criticisms of their prophet. Charlie was saying that university is a scam. He said that frequently. I agree with him. He was critical of the left. He was critical of Democrats. He was critical of some Republicans. Charlie said what he needed to say. He was truthful and he was direct. And that's what we loved about Charlie. And if I had to take all his statements and every topic that he criticized or that he was on top of, this is the one where I would place money for motive, for the capability and the means and all of that. All the resources and sufficient reason, sufficient motive for not just one person but several people to plot and carry this out. With or without Tyler. I don't know if Tyler is if we will have to see how Tyler's court hearings go. Anyway, if you don't mind, please like and subscribe, ring that bell. Truth matters. Over and out.